For most coaches, they would say for a goal to be a goal, it needs to fit 5 criteria. It needs to be specific, measurable, attainable and or achievable, realistic and or relevant, and time sensitive. And I think that that's a little quirky because for as long as people have been people, we've been setting goals and intentions. And they haven't always fit those 5 criteria. But doing what we just did, assigning goals a criteria, discussing what makes them efficient and effective, well, that part has only become popular in the last 70 years or so. Terms like OKRs, BHAGs, missions, purposes, outcomes, hard goals, inspirational goals, all of those many ways we use to describe a timeline that we prefer, those ideas, those systems like SMART goal setting, they've only been broadly used in the last few generations. Millennials onward have especially been indoctrinated into a culture of goal setting. Professor Adam Atler from the New York School of Business mentions in his book, Irresistible, how even as children, we were taught terms like records and benchmarks through classics like the Guinness Book of World Records. And I can remember spending more than one winter recess reading those books, trying to decide whether I wanted to go for most straws stuffed in my mouth, like 500, or most fireballs juggled. And to Atlas' credit, I could see how that book, Guinness Book of World Record, might have led me to setting my first goals. He also mentions in his book how terms like goal pursuit weren't even prevalent in the English language until the 1950s. He makes this connection how additional words, along with goal pursuit, also saw an increase as we move from the 50s up to the 2000s, words like perfectionism. And to wrap it all together, if you look at that line, that's when the first Guinness Book of World Records was published. I had a little bit of fun with Google's Ngram viewer tool to investigate Atler's point a little bit further, and I wanted to toss in a few extra words for fun. And as you can see from this graph, there could be a relationship between ideas like goal setting and or hustle, and the occurrence of some more concerning problems that we've been facing over the last few years with words like burnout and overwork. What we can't tell from this far from perfect data is whether we live in a more stressful world with more complex problems, so therefore we need better tools like goal setting to help us kind of go through those things, or is the increase of the use of tools like goal setting in fact making our world a more stressful place? More importantly, if you believe your goals are causing you more harm than good, what should you do about it? I grew up in a very small town called Berwyn, Alberta, a farming community up north in Peace River, population like 600 people. Pre-2008 mad cow disease and the recession, my family had a farm. My stepfather, this guy, coincidentally also named Jeff, was running about 300 head of cattle. And as most people who come from a farming community can speak to, there is something special about the way adults train farm kids on the values of work ethic. I can't speak to everyone on this point specifically, but I know at a very young age, I was taught that my value as a person and my value as a man was directly tied to how hard and how long I was willing to work, even if I didn't know it at the time, and even if my parents didn't know it at the time. And if you wanted kind of a general sense of what goal setting would look like in my community, you could just take a short 20-minute drive to another equally small town called Fairview, and you could listen to this guy speak.
One of the things you can be virtually certain of in life is that you don't get something you don't aim at.
And apparently, at a very viral scale, lots of people are comforted by Jordan Peterson's ideas that you can clean your room, make your bed, and work hard to happiness. These beliefs are comforting because in very small ways they tell us that we have control. And they're particularly yummy when we're in a hard place or we're suffering, because we can draw a lot of energy, motivation, and passion from goals that we set. But the thing is, this idea that Jordan Peterson shares here, that there's very little that you can't get that you don't aim for is generally wrong. As a matter of fact, I could argue exactly the opposite. One of the things you can be virtually certain of in life is that you will absolutely get something that you don't aim for. COVID-19 being the most in-your-face example of this. But also, in 2008, with Mad Cow and the recession, there was just no way that my stepfather, Jeff, could outwork his way out of that reality. And I'm not saying that goal setting is the issue here or that we should completely eliminate it, but I would like to point out that a massive blind spot generally for people who practice goal setting is an overall unwillingness to address the things that are within our control and the things that are absolutely not. This is actually hilariously highlighted by the ambiguity of SMART goal setting. Does A stand for achievable or attainable? And are those things not exactly the same? Does R stand for realistic or relevant? And when do I use which one? I'm pretty sure that lots of people who are watching this video up to this point know exactly what it means to have a specific, a measurable, a time-sensitive goal, but very rarely have I ever been in a conference setting where someone has asked, are these goals achievable and are they realistic? We stay away, we flinch from asking AR goals or AR questions because they grind against this culture of, I can do anything I can put my mind to. And that actually bothers us. It actually causes problems. People who set goals for the intrinsic reason of getting control and security actually paint themselves into a corner, because if they fail at their goal, it indicates a lack of control and therefore failure bad. It's notable that while living in capitalism, that most of the companies and organizations and schools that we're a part of will constantly be setting control-based goals because they're trying to take control of more market share. This creates an environment that teaches us scarcity and competition, and it exercises the skills of control-based goals more because that's how we gain security in a capitalist environment. But people who are not motivated by these things, people who are not motivated to get more power, more money, more capital, more control, they'll just typically opt out of goal setting training because the learner population is filled with people who have very different motivations than them. And at worst, for people who are not motivated by control, if they attempt to attend these lessons, they'll often have their goals invalidated by other learners because, you know what, their goals are not ambitious or scary enough. The current culture of goal setting might actually be pushing learners out of the room. And the world needs more people, more leaders, without the main MO of gaining more influence. We need them to have skills in organization, budgeting, strategy, and priority management. So how can we improve this? Well, we need to expand the ways people can build relationships with goal setting. We need to create more space on what counts as worthy endeavors. And we need to increase the diversity of people who have the privilege and opportunity to set goals. Finally, we need to evolve our language in goal setting beyond just hit or miss. Our goals should not always be what other people might consider successful, because traditional success actually doesn't always represent quality in today's world. And most importantly, to become better at the skill of goal setting, I think we're going to need to give up some control. Have you ever been in a situation where you are incredibly motivated, but no matter what you do, you can't quite figure out what types of goals to set? Or perhaps you've found yourself at the end of a really intense planning session, and you've listed out all of the typical milestones and benchmarks that people typically would set for that goal, only to find that all of your motivation is completely sucked out of the whole process. Over the last year, a team of mine, a team that I belong to, has been working on a really large project. And for months, we were having a lot of difficulty really capturing exactly what it is that we were trying to do. And it felt Like, no matter how many times we got together to do planning sessions or group meetings, we weren't able to bridge these communication gaps, and it was causing our progress in that project to completely slow down. This issue went beyond just understanding the importance, the impact, the difficulty, and the time frame of some of the things that needed to get done. I have the privilege of working with some incredibly sharp people. Instead, the tension that was developing was occurring with communication breakdowns around things like the level of confidence we had in achieving specific goals, or which goals could be sacrificed if it meant success in other goals. We also had issues with how expensive a shift might be if you're changing goals halfway through a quarter, or how success looks different across different goals. For example, 70% of goal A is yay, and 70% of goal B is boo. And finally, we started noticing how setting specific goals made attempting other goals very unrealistic. So what is going on here? At first, I assumed that the reason why we were having communication gaps was due to those different personal motives that we were talking about earlier, how different people are motivated by different things. But what I realized later on was that the reason why our goals lacked clarity was not a motivational issue at all. All of us wanted to achieve success. It was in fact in our inability to accurately describe our goals. So essentially, it was a skill issue and not a motivational issue. The reason why we were all disillusioned and frustrated is because we lacked the language to effectively describe the relationships between our goals, how some goals make other goals unrealistic, and how when you don't understand the relationships between each other's goals and how your teammates' goals affect you, then that makes it impossible to be able to tell whether they're realistic or not. And you lose your sense of certainty and control when you set unrealistic goals. Annoyingly, the solution to all of our issues was in fact just in going the direction of asking, is this realistic and is this attainable? And the biggest takeaway I took from the whole project was this idea that to really capture whether a goal is realistic or attainable, you have to go beyond just whether it has a budget or it has a particular amount of project hours. My team and I needed to recognize the relationship that each of us had with our own goals and also the relationships that our goals had with each other. To simplify and make this a little bit more practical, here's me, and here is my goal. What I was trying to investigate and catalog or categorize was this relationship. What is this, and what sorts of relationships could you have? What I found was, in fact, that there are kind of 4 types of goals you can have, or at least 4 relationships I've defined so far. Those 4 categories could be imagined like this: experiment goals, growth and maintenance goals, reduction goals, and position or positioning goals. I want to take a few minutes right now to categorize and walk you through the characteristics of each one, so that way you too can actually use the system for your own goals. Starting with experiments or experiment goals. Experiments are things that you've never done before, and their primary purpose is for you to learn something new, to collect data, and to play a game of let's find out. Experiments are all about learning. That's what success is with experiments. Important notes for them is that they have a high rate of failure, so you shouldn't really let them affect your self-esteem. The value in experiments is data, so try to be clear on what it is that you're trying to discover. They're very time sensitive. You should know when you want to end them, and the certainty with experiments is very low. So you want to make sure that you don't make too many promises and you watch the ego. Growth and maintenance goals are going to be the ones that you're probably most comfortable with, the ones that you've seen most often. The purpose of a growth and a maintenance goal is all about making progress, and success with growth and maintenance goals is improvement. These goals are often over-prioritized, and they have a high impact on self-esteem. And the reason for this is that the external validation is really high. It's very easy to see when someone has been putting in streaks that last 2 or 3 years on Duolingo, or you can see the evidence of someone working hard in the gym. Growth and maintenance goals are our primary source of security and stability because they have a lot of immediate results. They're all about the accumulation of revenue and money and mass and power and energy. If you're stocking up and you're experiencing the rewards for your work, you're probably in a growth and maintenance goal. Reduction goals are often the most overlooked and underestimated for impact. The purpose of reduction goals is holistic system health, making sure that you're protecting the golden goose that lays the golden eggs. Success with reduction goals is about sustainability. People often forget these goals and how much of a difference they can make, especially when you're outcome-driven. For example, if your goal was to make an additional $100 per month, well, it's just as impactful as it is to reduce your spending in other areas as it would be to just work more hours. People will always forget to utilize a reduction goal. They're often under-recognized in organizations as well. The selling will always be over-rewarded and over-recognized over the financial department, despite the fact that the financial department can offer a lot of savings to an organization. Another big component of reduction goals is that they are actually a necessary process in the journey of opening up new projects for the future. Because you can't just keep on adding more things. You have to reduce some of your work or your time in order to set new goals. So a reduction goal might be required before taking on new goals. And last but not least are positioning goals. And these goals are actually my favorite to set. I spend a lot of time in positioning goals. Positioning goals are all about expanding opportunity in your future. And success is about being proactivity. The elements that make something a positioning goal is that you're spending a great deal of energy and time into something that's not urgent, but incredibly important. They're about playing chess, not checkers, and are really 99% delayed gratification. You'll experience the rewards from chasing after these goals far off in the future, and they have very few immediate results or external validation. No one is going to pat you on the back for saving 10% of your income for 10 years. Long-term savings, education, insurance, all of those types of things are positioning goals. For example, a year ago, I had to learn everything I needed to know about ScreenFlow in order to film this video now. So that was a positioning goal. Positioning goals are about getting to where you need to be, about actively manifesting. Now that we've went through each one of those, let me show you how this would actually roll out with a list of goals. Here are my goals from January 1st, 2021, and I'm going to label each one of these with what type of goal it is. Going through my own goals, this is how I broke them down. Quitting smoking is a reduction goal. Participate in fasting for my second Ramadan is growth and maintenance. Produce 2 to 3 chowder YouTube videos, experimental goal. Get 5 new clients for my coaching business, growth and maintenance. And purchase some farmland as some long-term positioning. You can also pause the video and take a few minutes to do this with your own goals if you like. Another way that you could imagine or use this method is by plotting out your goals on a 4-quadrant that looks like this. This is how I like to work with my clients because it really lets you observe your goals, to look at them right in the face, and to ask yourself whether or not this type of load is the season that you want to be in right now. This framework adds color and dimension to the seasons that we're going through based on the types of goals we're setting. For coaches, this framework has the ability to be an incredibly powerful tool for diagnostics and supporting your clients. It allows you to look at your clients and kind of see where they're coming from and what success might look like based on the nature of their goals. It also highlights weak areas and areas that they might require a certain level of support. I created this model because I wanted to open up a new vocabulary for people to discuss their goals. I wanted to create a model that recognizes that there are other goals other than just becoming bigger, better, faster, and stronger, or maintaining a super long streak. If you're a coach and you're thinking about using this model, you'll be blown away by the introspection that comes when a person recognizes that they are setting only one type of goal. And what this system does is it allows them to give themselves permission. It validates the importance of maintenance goals and reduction goals and the importance of experimentation and how you're not always just going to hit that. Most importantly, it teaches us that if we're mindful about the relationships that we have with our goals and the relationships our goals have with each other, that it makes those goals both more attainable and realistic, which is smart. On the way out, I figured we would exit through the gift shop and talk about toxic goals. Goal setting and the skill of goal setting and whether it's good for us or not is not really a new conversation. In 2013, there was a Forbes article titled, "Why Setting Goals Can Do More Harm Than Good." The Forbes article had cited a particular research project done by 4 of the top business schools across the United States. Researchers from each school submitted a report that the Forbes article was citing. The report read, "We argue that the beneficial effects of goal setting have been overstated and that systemic harm caused by goal setting has been largely ignored. The researchers concluded that bad side effects produced by goal-setting programs included a rise in unethical behavior, overfocus on one area while neglecting the other parts of the business, distorted risk preferences, corrosion of organizational culture, and reduced intrinsic motivation." Their stance is rather than organizations use goal setting, they should instead work to design environments that motivate people to complete their work ethically through intrinsic motivation. And that's actually not nearly as crazy as you might think. I've coached loads of trades-based businesses that are not using goal setting on their year-to-year businesses whatsoever. Why? Well, because they're so rooted into the local economy that for the last 10 years, they've completed a certain number of homes or projects or clients. And through that process, they know that next year they're going to do roughly the same amount. They work to make their clients happy. They know that they'll have enough to run for the next year. And that's all that they shoot for, the ability to do their trade again for the next year. It's important to know that that happens all the time. There are lots of businesses that don't set goals. Not every butcher wants to run a sausage factory. 3-time Canadian gold-winning Olympic champion rower Adam Creek had this to say about toxic goals. "The problem with pursuing fame, money, and beauty is that all 3 rely heavily on external factors beyond our control. A goal like this can breed bitter satisfaction. Why? Well, each of these 3 toxic goals turns out to be a means to an end. Each of us are actually searching for a deeper level of happiness and self-acceptance that is found through self-growth, stronger community, healthier bodies, and deeper relationships." And I'm not sure if I agree with Adam, because frankly, I can't afford to assume that a particular type of goal would breed dissatisfaction. There's loads of examples of famous, beautiful people with lots of money out there who would say that they're incredibly happy. I will say, however, that there are particular goals that would genuinely require you to be an awful person for you to achieve them. Jeffrey Bezos. I did also notice that Adam brought up that most important element of control. And I think that it's interesting that you can see that culture of control framed in his desire to only set goals that are within his control. As for the researchers, I don't believe that goal setting should be completely eliminated. I think that, as with most tools, the destructive force lies in how responsibly we use them. And then there's hustle porn. One exceptional example of hustle porn was provided by Jenny Odell in her book, How to Do Nothing, Resisting the Attention Economy. Jenny highlighted a particular advertisement that glorified this idea of hustle culture. The ad was put up in 2017 by Fiverr in subway stations, and it read, "You eat coffee for lunch. You follow through on your follow-through. Sleep deprivation is your drug of choice. You might be a doer." Hustle culture celebrates treating your body like a machine in pursuit of your goals. Why do I know that so intimately? Well, at the ripe young age of 19 years old, I decided to tattoo my body with a machine. I literally tattooed a machine on me, advocating exactly that. Reddit co-founder Alexis Ohanian had this warning to say about hustle porn and hustle culture. This is one of the most dangerous things in tech right now. This idea that unless you are suffering, grinding and working every hour of every day, you're not working hard enough. Business Insider 2018. Through mindfulness and moderation, personal goal setting is incredibly worthwhile and important. Because to learn these skills, one needs to understand and internalize that they have both limited time and energy. We like to believe that we're in control of all of the variables, that we can accomplish anything that we put our minds to, and we're taught to think that way. But healthy goal setting is not about vying for control, and it's not even about success or failure. At its best, goal setting is about becoming aware of all of the wonderful projects that we have the opportunity to show up for. Goal setting is about having the courage it takes to experiment and be vulnerable, to play a game of let's find out. It's about appreciating all of the work that goes into hundreds of tiny little decisions in order to bend probability into a new reality. Goal setting is about learning what's possible in this world, at the same time understanding that we are the ones that bring value to our goals. And I'll say that louder for those of you in the back. You are the one who brings value to your goals by choosing to pursue them, by investing your time and your energy towards your goals. Your goals do not bring value to you. You bring value to your goals. For myself, complicating the way I look at goals has made a significant difference. My self-esteem is much healthier. I'm more joyous, I'm motivated, I'm chasing after and setting new types of goals. I take feedback differently because now I look at failure differently. The way I have been working with my clients has also changed. This allows me to have more patience and room to set different types of goals and to monitor different types of growth and improvement. It's been easier to set expectations about the types of goals that we're setting and what to expect from those goals. It's also easier to keep a cadence with that coaching because we can change the nature of the goals at any time, which might make meetings more or less frequent based on the types of goals that you're setting or where you're at on that learning. I created this session because I love setting goals. I've chosen a career path where it's my responsibility to help my clients reach for, pursue, and hopefully achieve those goals. And it's really important as a coach that I have a healthy relationship with goals of all shapes and sizes. I hope that this video also helps you in that way. It helps you set healthier goals, helps you understand the relationships that your goals have with each other, which will then allow you to make sure that your goals are more attainable and realistic. Until next time, this has been Jeff Consul and Coach's Chowder and my session on goal setting. Thank you for listening. Holy smokes! Thank you so much for watching. If you've liked this content, please take a moment and follow me on Patreon and become a sponsor. This month, we're going to be talking all about goal setting. We're going to be getting into some advanced concepts about some of the things that we talked about in this video, which include, or based on which way you're looking, I'm going to be walking through as well how coaches can use goal relationships to begin thinking about better supporting your clients. So become a sponsor. And I would really love to keep on making stuff like this. So thank you very much and have a fantastic day.